Welcome to the Wise Dome podcast, a series that is so much more than just a podcast series. This is a movement towards a lifestyle you know you deserve. It's all about the ease of inspiring and sharing your knowledge and experiences online. I'm your host, Nikki, and I have always admired those who share their wisdom, those who have decided to inspire others. Just like my guests, I found my version of inspiring others by sharing my wisdom and created a lifestyle I wanted, and I'm going to share all the secrets for how you can too. On this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Remember, inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? Starting a business can be tough. Opening up and sharing your wisdom can be even tougher, but it depends on how we look at it. If you're sharing your wisdom and inspiring others whilst doing what you love, then you can't be hard. Seeing how your work, your efforts, your words, or even your actions can put a smile on someone's face, can make them feel great, more at ease, solve their pain, then you're certainly on the right path. Our guest today is Sonia, and she does just that. Sonia's been in the business industry for over 35 years. She runs her own award-winning all-female debt collection agency. Sonia has won numerous business awards by written submission, not votes, plus been featured in business books, newspapers, radio, and TV. As per our chat today, Sonia has mentored many business women over the years. So, Sonia, welcome to the Wise Dome podcast series.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Let's start off with you letting us know a bit about yourself and how you got started.
Okay, great question, because I always get a reaction. So let's just say I didn't wake up and want to be a debt collector. Okay, I actually wanted to be a secretary, and I was quite happy to do that when I started off. And I definitely embarked on that. And I remember once when I actually applied for a position, it was actually a reception. I got really excited because it was in the city. Had no idea what the company was for or what they did. And then lo and behold, it was a debt collection agency. And I thought, oh, okay. And I just went with the flow, as you do. I was more excited being in the city than getting a job. So, with one story to another, I basically grew with this business. And the owner at the time basically taught me everything about debt collection. I got really interested, and he just taught me everything there was so I could help him. And here I am now, and this is like the short version. I don't want to bore you. This is now, 35 years in the industry. Yeah. So that's where it all basically started.
Amazing, isn't it? You don't have any particular plans or decide there, it just falls in your lap. Amazing.
That's right. That's right, exactly. Who would have known at that age, what I was going to do?
I find it amazing how people dive into the whole just deciding to inspire others. So leading to the next question, I'd love to know, how did you actually start your wisdom business and, the whole mentoring side of things?
I was actually approached. What I did in the early days is I actually applied to a lot of business awards, because in the early days, because I've been in this for about 3 decades, in the early stages, I really had to prove myself as a woman. Right. Unfortunately, because it's a man's world, and we all know that, and that's fine. I've learned to live with that. So in the beginning, I actually wanted to get myself out there, so to speak, get some credibility. So I thought, I'll go into the awards, and I entered everything you can possibly imagine. And then what happened, I actually had people approach me to say, hey, would you like to mentor women in business? Their businesses will be diverse. It's not debt collection, could be anything like startups. And so that's where I started mentoring. And I really loved it because it gave me a lot of satisfaction trying to help somebody, because I know what it was like 30 odd years ago when I first started. So by asking for help, it's such a huge difference in life and in business. Having mentors, being surrounded with people that could help you, it's a game changer. It really, really is. I wish I knew that before. We live and learn. So the mentoring, that's how the mentoring basically started. And I was in the media, like everywhere. It was I was like the Florence Nightingale of debt collectors, so to speak. They'd ring me and say, hey, what's your opinion on this? And what's your opinion on that? And it was just everywhere. So it was great. It was great. And so that's where the mentoring started off with me.
But that's amazing, isn't it? Like, you're just out there to almost publicize, yourself. You're just, trying to build up a momentum of your brand and everything, and then it just evolves into other things, doesn't it? I
know. Here I am just trying to prove myself. It's like, well, I can collect debts just because I'm a woman. I can do it. And if not, being a woman and having empathy, we've got different qualities to offer when you're speaking to the other side. So, it works really well in our favour. Not that I actually set out to have an all-female team, but that's another thing that happened as well along the way. So, life gives you lots of surprises. It's whether you take the opportunity or you think, no, it's too hard, I don't want it. That's just not me. That's just not who I am.
No, exactly. And it's interesting. Like I spoke to another lady the other day, and she's just amazing. Her name's Jacqueline, and she actually did a TEDx talk, and she talks about courage. The formula of courage is basically believing more than having more belief than having fear. So, it outweighs the fear. So you just have that drive. It's like, another word for stubbornness, I call it anyway. But it's like, but there's a lot of women on the other side of it too that just, all they have to do is ask that question, ask for help. You just have to put your hand up. But it's just the same as actually being involved in a community of like-minded women or men, or whatever it is that you're doing. But, for our listeners out there, it is great for them to hear that, you take a step in one direction, but you be open to the other possibilities that could be thrown at you and opportunities, because sometimes someone might ask you something and you might be I'm not too sure about it person, but if you just give it a try, you never know. And you can end up building a whole new business out of that. So
that's true. That's very true.
When you started, I know, you have your debt collection business and everything like that, and that was probably was something that sort of gave you that to be that mentor and take you in that direction with all your awards and everything like that. And like you said, being, the Florence Nightingale of, debt collectors and so forth, the person to ask, well, to have that stature, did that help you in actually building up your, as we call, wisdom business, your mentor business or side of things?
Yeah, absolutely, because it just gives you the confidence that you know what you're doing, and it just gives you more of a boost and more confidence. But what I found, and over the years, and it's still a learning lesson for me, is the clearer that you are with what you want out of life, whether it's your business or your personal life, I really find if you have that clarity, it really happens. How else it gets delivered to you, or for you. I just find if I'm not clear on my projects, it sort of gets wishy-washy, so to speak. If I'm super clear, like laser focused, and when I think back on my awards, for instance, I had a lot of people saying, you're not going to win that. It's like, why not? I convinced myself so much that I even saw myself there giving out the speech, doing like me being there, my future self.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm just using that as an example. I actually applied a lot of awards, and it wasn't those nominations. It was written. It was like when I had a bub, it was probably 6 months old, and I was writing submissions and getting knocked back. And then the floodgates just opened, and I'd be going to the awards and people would be saying, oh, what's your business? Are you a beauty consultant? And I looked, I thought, no, I'm a debt collector. And then like the reaction that you had when we officially started talking is like, what? It really comes down to clarity for me. And every book, self-development, I possibly have got on my shelf at home says the same thing. Yeah. But it's such an easy thing to say, but not to do.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask you. Yeah. How do you, it's one thing to find clarity. How do you personally go through that process of finding clarity?
You got all day? No. I'm very much into personal development. That has basically driven my business from day one, because I left a nice corporate job paying, getting paid big dollars and all the rest. And I actually left, and I actually started my business with $1,000 from our family home. And that's all I had, and a cat, actually. So, that was my starting point.
Yeah.
So I basically write it all down like it's in the future, but it's actually in present tense.
Right.
That works for me. So I write, like, for instance, I know you're going to think I'm really weird, but I actually write like an actual page, like a story. This is what's going to happen. Not what's going to happen, but actually what is happening in my life. And I read it as often as I can. And then you just develop in your subconscious that things just happen. Yeah. Like, I didn't predict for this to happen, for this opportunity, and here it is. So, and that's what I used to do with my awards or with anything I want to achieve in life. That's what I put it to. And of course, filling my head with the good stuff, which isn't easy because otherwise everyone will be doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, spiritual development is very important for my mindset. Your mindset is gold. It's all very well to set up a great business and hope for the best, but that's not enough. You need the clarity, you need the mindset to move you into the direction that you want. For me, it's writing, reading, affirmations, in that space, constantly putting myself in that zone.
The other portion, though, and that is when you have that mindset, like you were saying, and I see it, I think it's amazing the fact that, you've mentored so many women because we can see the balance in you where you go through that crap, but yet you visualize the fantastic ending to a lot of the cases that you go through where the relief you give your clients of, oh, thank you, or just anything,
Yeah. Look, when we do debt collect, and debt collecting has changed a lot over the decades. Like before it was pay up or else. Now, we're heavily regulated and we can't do that. And that's fine. And that's not how I like to operate as a human being anyway. Yeah. So we like to be on the fence. We'd like to help the client, the one that's owed the money. And we also like to help the debtor, the one that has to pay the debt. Yeah. So there's no point being nasty. So this is where we stay on the fence, we talk, we negotiate, we feel what they're feeling. And I think from a female's point of view, we can do that. We get thank you letters. It's just incredible how people respond because after all, they are humans. So, times have changed.
Yeah. And look, tapping into that understanding of both sides of the story is a great skill to have.
It's very conscious. It is conscious. Like it's not. Look, it's for me, I suppose it's like water off a duck's back now, but I am still conscious when I'm speaking to people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other, leading from that, obviously, sort of the people that you have to work with and talk to and work through situations with. Obviously, there's a lot of negotiating and so forth involved in that. So you learn how to sort of read your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it on the head with that one, 110%.
Yeah. Is there any particular lessons that you've learned along the way with respect to the whole side of, mentoring? Mm-hmm. Is there any lessons that you've learned from anyone that you've mentored, and has it changed the way you've sort of approached?
I think what strikes me most is the belief that they have in themselves. Yeah. And it's also a reminder back to me, like to believe in yourself as well. So you can, when you're talking, I only just mentored someone not long ago. She actually wanted to enter awards and didn't know where to start, found me, I think via Google or something. And I said, I'm happy to help you out. Yeah. And, straight away, just the little thing that I suggested, she was like, I can't do that. I said, yes, you can. So I broke it down for her and said, look, start with this, just like some key areas. Yeah. But straight away, see how the mind's like, oh, no, I can't do that. So, she was so sweet because I could see that. So here I am trying to instill the belief in her. And then at the same time, it's sort of reflection back at you. Think, well, I got to believe in myself as well sometimes because you lose that sometimes. We're humans, it's just a normal thing. So that was really sweet. And, I think 3 months after our chats, she came back to me and thanked me and, was really appreciative because she wasn't thinking that far, that she could do it, so to speak. That's just one thing that always I appreciate. And I'm grateful because it helps me at the same time, even though I don't realise. It's like, oh, that's a good lesson for me.
Yes, yeah, exactly. There you go. And did that sort of change? Well, obviously that's something that inspiration is obviously a major part of this, inspiring others to sort of move forward. But is there a particular sort of attitude or a delivery that you might have changed or that you found worked for you when it came to mentoring? What would you suggest is sort of the best way to approach mentoring? Like, is there any particular format
that you follow online?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it depends on the different mentorship that you're after as well.
Right.
Whether is it a business mentor, is it a life mentor, is it a spiritual mentor? Because like I'm just thinking of myself, I've got so many mentors. Not that I use them all the time, but sometimes you just need to draw on what you need. And you know in your gut, it feels right. I mean, I'm very much gut. I feel by gut. If it feels good to me, then I will definitely go with it, jump in with heels and all. If it's someone I'm talking to, it's like, no, you're by the book. You just want me to tick all the boxes. That doesn't work for me, because I'm not your conventional person that I have to follow 1, 2, 3. Yes, I'll follow.
Yeah.
But I need a bit it's like, this isn't working for me, and then I just move on to somebody else that maybe I've come across my path, or someone, like being in a community, you talk to a lot of people and people might say, hey, I've used this person and I found that I got this, this and this. And it's like, yeah, that's what I want. It's basically your outcomes. What do you really want to get out of it? And then work backwards. That's how I work. So for me, if it's a business mentor that I'm looking for, I want to know what I want to achieve. And can this person actually help me? I've had some great mentors and I've said, this is what I want. This is the result I'm looking for. Can you help me?
Right.
And they can say, yeah, I can get you here. Perfect. Show me the way. And then we work that way. Or if it's more on a, like a spiritual way, then I will say, okay, this is what I'm wanting to do. I want to get out there, or whatever the case may be. Then they help me with that.
And that's as someone who is wanting to mentor, what process do you go through on the other side of the spectrum?
As a mentor, I will always ask the question what they want.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same thing. I'm going to ask the person, what do they want to achieve? Because, like, for instance, this last lady, I'm only using her as an example. She actually wanted to win awards.
Yes.
An award. Yes. So we worked backwards on how she could achieve that. Right. So I gave her some ideas, but with being a mentor, it's great to help people and give them the information, but they need to do the work themselves.
One common denominator I always found with anyone that either, I mentored or mentored me was, when it comes to being the mentor, it's almost, you can have your wealth of experience and so forth, but you're not directive. You're just more putting the feelers out there. Let's ask those questions. Let's mention those things, the little, like ignite some ideas that might, that your mentee might need. And that's something that, obviously having that intuition and, reading people and so forth, obviously as a mentor, because it really is encasing everything of that person when you're trying to help someone, isn't it?
Yeah. What's important too, I find, is when I ask the question is, why do they want it? That's so interesting to find out why.
What their why is.
It's like, no, you're not convincing me. They're like, what do you mean? It's like, no, it doesn't sound like really. So then they've got to dig deeper.
Yes.
It's like you said when you say, well, you know what to do. I thought, well, I don't know what to do. That's why I'm here, right? It's like, well, deep down you do know what you know. It's just you need some direction or some words of encouragement. But when I ask, well, why do you want it?
Yeah.
And then they'll give me some lame excuse and it's like, no, that doesn't cut it for me. So they dig deeper. I thought, now we're getting to the juicy bit. So when you're emotionally attached to it, then you're on all cylinders as far as I'm concerned, rather than say, well, I just want it because, it makes me feel good. You really need...
That won't drive you. Yeah.
Exactly. It won't drive you, right? Yeah, that was one question I always ask, and it helps them as well. And then I get even more connected to them thinking, great, now we're talking.
Yes.
So now let's do something about this. Like you said, I could have the knowledge. They're missing the knowledge. I can give that to them. But then sometimes, it just falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So
experiences have taught you to dig.
Oh, totally.
And by doing that, you're giving them the chance to get the results that they need, which is fantastic. And as a mentor, that's an amazing ability to have. Like, if anyone is to go out there and, if they want to be a mentor or a coach, what advice would you give them in particular?
Well, clearly have a goal in mind, what they want. And you really need to feel comfortable, but uncomfortable. I've been with mentors that I'm too comfortable and then they don't move me, so to speak.
Yep.
So It's almost like, I remember I had one mentor, he was great. I was actually nervous before our session. It's like, oh no, I have to watch my P's and Q's. I have to be careful what I say. You know, you want that in a way too, because then you might as well talk to your girlfriend or somebody that is a friend in business. Yeah. You know, you want someone to shake you up a bit, make you a little bit uncomfortable. The goal, you know, you need to try and get there, and it's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Yeah. But I think it just comes down, for me, my thing is the connection. If you feel like you're connected with that person and you get uncomfortable and, you know, they've done work for other people, then I think that will be a bonus for that person. So,
that's really good advice in the sense of, you know, if they're going out there and they're thinking they love to, you know, be a mentor or a coach, even starting a coaching program where you might actually have a number of people. Like, it's not just a one-on-one situation or whatever, it's one-to-many. So, you know, in those cases as well, there has to be a click, because they've got to trust you, don't they? They have to sort of open up to you. So, you know, you've got to have just that simple conversation.
Absolutely. And trust is big. As you just said, trust. If I don't trust that person, then like it's a little bit different from feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned to you earlier that I just love your posts on LinkedIn. I think.
Thank you.
and I have to say, you know, the stories that you share with your audience, I guess from my perspective, you're best known for your transparency, I would say, how you tell your stories and everything like that. Why do you think people resonate with your approach, especially, you know, in the way you mentor?
I believe it's because what you see is what you get, because there's no point me being someone that I'm not, because I'll soon fall back into my own self. And I'm a straight shooter, you know, and I suppose that comes from debt collection. I suppose that comes from being the only child, you know, in the family, you know, fighting to get what you want and whatnot. But you know what? I'm very transparent. What you see is what you get, probably sometimes too much because I'm so open, but that's the way I am, and I'm not going to change for anybody. And I think as I get older, actually more transparent. Like my clients, we have a few laughs and, you know, and I'm very open, where 20 years ago, it would be, this is my wall, you're the client, and I'm the professional, and this is how I'm going to act. Now, oh gosh, no, the walls have all broken down. This is me, honey. You like it? Sometimes I'll rave on about Rod Stewart because, you know, I've been a sweetheart fan since I was 16. I don't care. And it's all about encouragement. Like really, at the end of the day, if the mentor delivers or the coach delivers in inspiring you, giving you the courage to do what you actually want to achieve. You know, you've walked away feeling so much better and knowing that you can actually do it, even though you thought in the beginning of the conversation, it's like, well, I don't know how to do that, and the walls go up, you know, like, but when you're being mentored, that helps so much. You know, there have been many times that I've been mentored, and I even hear myself saying, well, I can't do that because I'm not techie. And they're like, oh, stop, you know, all you got to do is ask. And before you know it, you have the answers. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's just about asking. Yeah. It's getting that encouragement, which makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has the support system around us. You know, like if you're in business, your girlfriends or friends maybe work for somebody else and don't have a business, so you don't have anyone to lean on. So a mentor would be the ideal thing to have in your life, you know, to get you moving forward for whatever goals you want, so to speak.
Yeah. Whether you're a mentor or you're thinking of being a mentor or a coach, or whether you're just in general wanting to start a business, it goes both ways. You can get help or you can give help. And, you know, just putting your hand up in both situations, putting your hand up saying, I can help you, or putting your hand up saying, I need help. You know, it's just taking that courage, just like you said, just to get out there and just ask and believe in yourself, isn't it? Just like you said before, it's like just having belief that you can go through what you need to go through and achieve those goals that you want to achieve. So with respect to, like you mentioned, you know, the transparency that you have, which I love, there is no need to apologise for being transparent by any means, because like you mentioned before, you know, you have to watch your P's and Q's and so forth. Oh, you know, my husband mentioned to me the other day, and he said, oh, you know, this is corporate speak. And, you know, when you have to do this, you have to, and I said to him, I don't do corporate speak, love. Sorry. And you just have to be yourself, don't you? You just have to really be yourself. Don't, obviously, there are, you dress nice, don't go out in your moccos and stuff like that if you want to. But, it's, there are certain limitations, I guess you could say. But I think, it does come down to just being yourself and your true person. And like we were mentioning earlier, if you can start a business, if you are passionate about it, you have that drive. Like you said, you might dive in with your clients and say, no, I don't believe that. That answer's not enough. There's got to be emotion in there to keep that drive going.
And you know what, also, when you said the word passion, I mean, that really resonates with me, because even though some people cringe for what I do, right, it's not because I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's not a job, like you love what you do. So it is passion. You do it and the hours just go by so quickly. It's not like a job, so to speak. So I think if everybody can put that into their world, whether you're being mentored or mentoring or whatever it may be, it just creates a whole different vibe. And it's not a job. Like sometimes my kids will say, oh, how do you do what you do? I thought, I don't know, I just do it. And I enjoy it. Yeah. And if people tell me off, that's okay, because I know how to deal with it. Yeah. Like I don't react. Where years ago I used to react, and that's probably what you do with a mentor as well. And mentoring is you kind of reactive. If you can, you can if you want to, or you can accept it and say, okay, well, this is how I'm going to listen to you because you've got experience, right? Yeah. So I'll do what you say. But you've got to have that trust. You've got to have that connection, the passion, and they also have that passion and can see where you want to go.
One thing I love asking my guests is, like, what legacy are you looking to leave, whether it be personal or business? And the reason I ask that is because we've talked about, in December, we go through that whole process of looking back on what we achieved through the year. And then that becomes more of a foundation to what we plan for the future year. So there's all this planning and goal setting and everything happening in January. But now, next to that, they're just steps that you take. But what legacy do you plan on leaving, maybe just within the year or in future?
I have. I guess my legacy would be to really believe in what you want to achieve and know whatever I have given out is the best I can do, and that I want people to be inspired and aspire to. Like I do that with my kids, and I can see that, they might have been bagging me 6 months ago, and now all of a sudden they're learning, like, what I've been saying all my life. This is how if you want to achieve something. So for me, my biggest legacy is if I can leave behind in the future what I've learned and someone can pick it up and go with it, that will fill my heart and my cup.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And is there any particular offer that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Hey, look, I'm happy to give somebody or anybody that's interested, like, a 15-minute chat with me, and just to see if I can help them in any way. I'm happy to do that. So if anyone's interested, they can get in contact with me, and happy to have a chat to see where they want to go or how they want to be helped, or, if I can help them, I'd love to. Yeah, why not? Yeah,
no problem at all. Well, look, we will have all the details on the free consultation that will be in our podcast summary on below, so you'll be able to see that. Be sure to click on any of the links that will be available there. And don't forget to subscribe, obviously, to the Wise Dome podcast. But just to sum it up, I have loved chatting with you today. It's been amazing, Sonia. And I guess when it comes down to it, you don't know where your life is going to take you, do you? Like, starting off wanting to be a secretary, going into debt collecting, and then inspiring so many people just in so many different ways. And, the fact that all the awards that you've won, and, being in the media that you've been in, and just everything that you've done, it's amazing. And it's so humbling to know that I've been able to actually have a chat with you today and just tap at your brain a little bit. I really appreciate it. Is there any sort of final summary you want to give anyone?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Nikki, because you've made it so easy to speak with you and so kind with your words. I really have to get on my list of girlfriends.
No problem.
Okay, done. But, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's all got to do with mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset is huge. And if I knew what I knew 35 years ago when I started, it could have been a whole different world.
Yes.
So my thing, once again, is mindset. Get your mindset right. And seriously, there is so much the life has so much to offer us. It really has. And I think you just got to do it. But get your mindset focused, and clarity. It really is the key. It's only taken me, I don't know how many years to learn that, which I'm happy to say. But anyway.
Thanks for listening to the Wise Dome podcast. If you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kelly, you can follow me on Instagram at Wise Dome Podcast, WISEDOME Podcast. I'm Nikki Kelly. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.